And now, from Grid Square Echo Mike 48, this is 100 Watts and a Wire.
Well, hello and welcome to 100 Watts and a Wire. It's Christian. My call sign is Kilo Zero, Sierra Tango Hotel. It's great to be with you. Episode 356. Imagine that, of the 100 Watts and a Wire podcast. We appreciate you coming by, and don't forget to subscribe wherever you consume this podcast. And bringing in old homie today, not to say old, but yeah, I guess we're all getting a little old homie. I like it. He's working on a new character.
Every day. Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon, and good evening whenever you're listening to us.
We appreciate you.
Good to be here.
You can always come. We try to do this on Saturday morning, 9 o'clock. It's a live stream. We capture the recording. It's sent out on the same day. But we like to engage with the people that can stop by. So you're always welcome, our podcast listening audience. Come on by Saturday morning to the live show. Bring your topics, positive attitude, and all of those things. Just a little update. This week, I'm actually using the front-facing camera. Why? Because I'm feeling better from the Rona, which is great. Last Thursday, got positive on that. It was only a matter of time. About 27 months it took. And so it finally made its way to the Kudnick house. But doing better every day, got better. The main difference this week was the surgeon who was going to perform the hernia repair, he got the Rona, so we've got rescheduled. So anyway, you know, it's just one of those things. People at my job are like, man, you've had a really rough year. And it's just, you know, it just kind of puts you out of commission a little bit and dealing with life. So it is the intersection of life and amateur radio. Before we get too deep into the show, we're going to be talking about some disabilities today. Steve had an interesting series of conversations on the air. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But did you know, this week in radio, Steve, May, let's see, I think it was the 7th in 1908, the wireless radio broadcasting is patented by Nathan B. Stubblefield, the wireless telephone capable of mobile use. He was born in 1860. We were just little kids back then, and he was, when he was coming up, I thought I remember him from the neighborhood. He lived to be 67 years old. He was an American inventor from Kentucky, and he considered himself a practical farmer. He grew fruit, and he was an electrician. He used ground current wireless telephone. So that happened this week in
That's today.
Radio.
Today's the 7th as we're recording this.
Back in 1908. So yeah, we were really lowercase C's and S's back then. Real low. I think I was about 8th grade or so. I was in the 8th grade several years. So that would be 1906 to 1908. Yep, something like that. Steve was just a little further along, 9th grade for the 6th time. It's all lies. I blame it on the fog. It's still sticking around.
Still a little on the slow side.
Schools were different back then. They were one room, around here, right? This is the truth. This part's the truth. They used to teach the kids. It's a one-room schoolhouse, and like the 6th graders would teach the 4th and 5th graders. That's how they kind of passed down. If you were one ahead, you could teach. You'd reach back and teach the other ones. I'm from Baltimore, so we had a different system. In the late 1800s, after I put down my musket in the Civil War, I went back and studied, communications, that sort of stuff. Anywho, part of that is true, mostly the Stubblefield portion of that. We're going to talk about disabilities today. We have a guest that's going to wise us up to it a little bit, and it's a return visit because I believe this is a show with conscience. We've talked about all sorts of things, diversity and equity and inclusion. We've helped people try to find kidneys. And what was the most recent one we did? Mental health issues. And, it's life. Things are going on with life. And you had some real life stuff happen to you on Sunday. Tell us a little bit about that. Then we'll bring on our guests so we can kind of get to the nuts and bolts. What happened Sunday?
So on Sundays, for those that don't know, 100 Watts and a Wire, we get together and we get on the air on Sunday evenings. We We have a net on, or what is it we call a net, on 40 meters and 20 now that spring is here. And it typically runs about 2 hours. We stream it, so if you're available 7 p.m. Central Time on Sunday evenings, come and join us on our nets and be part of it as we're doing ham radio. So we went into what I call overtime or after hours on the net, and old Sidecar gets a little chatty, and instead of that's okay, let's work a number of people. So just having a nice QSO with a gentleman and not thinking anything of it. He just mentions he's visually disabled, and I'm like, oh wow, great. I'd never ever thought of it as I'm working this gentleman on the air about having a disability. And then this is the great thing about our hobby here is that everybody is included and we're all the same. And he was 100% equal. I assume he was sighted, like myself, but he started telling me about the challenges that he faces. But what really got it was he has this device called the HandiHam pod that was developed by another amateur that was losing his sight. It's a software-based little box that interfaces to a number of radios that allows him to operate. And then, we talked more about that. I was pretty excited with the technology aspect of it. And then he started telling me about the challenges that he has about his antenna and having his family members to put up an antenna, not knowing anything, not knowing what to do, how to do it. And then others that in his club or in the area were saying, yeah, we'll help you out. And then they kind of bag on him. And so he has to rely on family members. Well, throughout this course of the conversation, that included even more people that started coming in and started volunteering that, I have a visual handicap and I have the same problem. And getting help or getting antennas put up the right way, you relying on family members that are not interested in the hobby, don't know anything about it, and they're just kind of putting something up. And then this poor amateur is excuse me, is relying on family members to get their antenna system up, and these people don't know anything, and it just kind of compounded on that. But it was amazing the amount. I mean, just people one right after another talking about their handicaps and how they're trying to overcome these things, and the lack of us, me, and others like myself, not there to help, and the frustration that I, afterwards in the evening, I was excited to work these guys, but at the same time frustrated, and it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing as a group? As we're letting down a segment of our brothers and sisters here in the hobby, and if you make a commitment, say, hey, I'm going to help a fellow ham that has handicaps, follow through with it, please. It just drove me absolutely nuts, and the frustration all this week that I felt, and I've been reaching out to the original ham. I'm waiting to hear back from him because he had some antenna questions, and so I was trying to start an email correspondence. So because he had some technical questions, and I said, hey, we'll just talk offline and go from there. But it was some highs, and then there was some lows, and it's just I was telling Christian about it, and then here we are today.
Yeah, because this is real life situation, and I have a friend. So you wouldn't think, no, he doesn't have any friends, but I'm going to show you I've got a friend. And as soon as you had this conversation and these feelings, anytime these feelings start to happen, we'll pump the brakes and let's talk about it. So I want to introduce you and our audience and encourage you, if you have a question while we're here today, you know what to do. Put a Q in front of it, drop it in there so we can discuss it and bring it back. But let me introduce you to my friend. I claim her. I don't know if she claims me. Lucinda, she is Alpha Bravo 8 Whiskey Foxtrot, and she's with HandiHam. HandiHam.org. Go ahead and look it up as we're talking about this. And she runs the joint. Now, you've been hearing a little bit about this, Lucinda. This probably sounds pretty common to you.
Oh, yeah. It's one of the big problems that we have. And unfortunately, the pandemic has made it worse. People have kind of forgotten how to people. And it's made it even more difficult for people with disabilities, of which not only do I run the HandiHam program, but I am also disabled. So I know it from that end as well. And we have to rely on other people to help us with the things we can't do for ourselves, which means a couple of things. We have to develop good social skills, which sadly in this country does not always happen for people with disabilities. Sometimes it's the fault of families who don't raise their disabled kids to know how to function normally within society. They treat them as special, but in a way that makes it difficult for them then throughout life. And so there's that issue, but there's also the issue of, simply because of the pandemic, people are even less responsive. They'll say, "Oh, I'll help." We have this thing in Minnesota. They call Minnesota nice. By the way, I'm not a native Minnesotan. And it's basically, they'll give you directions to anywhere but their home. So, the deal of, we'll say nice things to you, but don't expect anything to actually happen.
What do you mean? Explain that a little bit more. Go ahead. This is all you. Tell me more about that.
People will promise to help, and then you will never hear from them again. And this is a thing that I hear all the time from HandiHam program members, that, hey, and it's a problem for me too. Like, I get donated HF radio equipment. I'm like, okay, I've got a good fit for a radio for you. What can we do about getting some antennas? Because I can't do antenna work. You got to be able to get that locally. And then we're trying to figure it out, because it doesn't do me any good to send somebody a radio if I can't get antennas up for them.
Right.
So it's an ongoing difficult issue, also because clubs are aging, and the number of people in clubs that can do antenna work is becoming fewer and fewer, and we need younger people that can do this kind of work and are willing to help out.
Oh man, it gets my head spinning, and I'm going to be cautious to make promises, but it just seems like you could figure out a way. I guess I want to be correct. Would you say able-bodied folks that can come help? Is that right? Is that a terrible thing to say? How do you say that? People that can actually help. What would they be called?
We do need able-bodied people that can come alongside and help. We also need, and something about that too, we need able-bodied people that will respect people with disabilities, because that's also an issue that I hear about. Is, somebody's like, yeah, I had somebody come over, but when I said, hey, this connector's bad, and they told me I was wrong and it wasn't any of that. And then, they did this, that, and the other thing. And then finally they come back and check the connector, and sure enough, it was bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who did we visit with before? Was it Tom? Did we
Tom
hang
Taylor.
out with? I don't guess it was probably a year or so now. We're due to catch up again and see what's going on. But yeah, I think it's I don't know. There's some sort of hurdle in the mind where people are getting treated differently, and I mean, his brain, talking to him, is scary what this man knew. I was like, oh, like it was a constant series of, not only did he know like where I came from, literally knew the radio stations in my cities, where I've moved. He had all this knowledge. He was a professor at a college. I believe he still is, or semi-retired, that kind of deal. Steve, I know you have questions, and I want to get into the HandiHam program, handiham.org. Go check it out. Lucinda runs this thing. Let me just ask real quick. So most of the people that participate in this program, are they blind, right? Or has that changed since we spoke last?
Right now, it's still about 80% of our members that are blind or visually impaired. And then we have a conglomeration of other disabilities. In some cases, we have people who are blind and have physical disabilities. Um, it's just a combination of things. We actually have a few that are both blind and deaf. Um, and what's really neat about the ham radio hobby is that for all of these different things, it's the perfect hobby.
Tell me this. I'm gonna get into this, and then we can figure out what we can do to help you. When somebody comes to HandiHam, .org. Go visit them now, because I'm sure people in our audience listening are dealing with something and could possibly use the help. So handiham.org. Go check that out. I'm a disabled ham. Say I come to you. What sort of services do you offer?
So we have, thanks to the pandemic, we've kind of realigned how we do things. It's actually kind of cool. You get handed lemons and you make lemonade. Um, we're now offering virtual license classes that we do over Zoom and have become very popular. We're actually finishing up the extra class this next week, finishing up a 16-week series. And every fall now we teach basic Morse code, and in the spring we teach intermediate Morse code. There's been a lot of interest in that. And we're actually now talking about every couple of years offering an advanced Morse code class because we have some people who are interested. So when we go back to in-person events, our plan is to change those to, instead of offering license classes, which is a problem where we would have people come to like a week-long radio camp, they would spend all week in class, the last day of camp take their test, and leave having never actually gotten hands on their radio or hands on the HF equipment that we have. And realized, hey, we just blew an incredible opportunity. I can teach virtually the license class, but there are things I need somebody in the room for. And let's revamp how we do things. Let's relook at this. And let's make our in-person events all hands-on so that we do all the stuff we can't do virtually. And then let's do everything else virtually so that when we have the in-person events, which, by the way, are incredibly expensive for people to attend, they're traveling from all over the place, and, this isn't easy. So let's get the most bang for our buck. And so that's something that when we go back to in-person events next year, that's a shift that's going to happen versus what we did in the past. And we're looking forward to being able to make a greater impact. As you know, for new hams, there's that thing of being mic shy. And if you can be there with somebody and get them on the air the first few times, they'll key the mic again. You just got to get them through that first few times and give them the encouragement and the support that they need. And then letting people try accessible equipment and actually find out, okay, what works for me? Well, that brings us to our next issue. We're having trouble getting equipment, the whole supply chain issue, and radios that were very accessible are being discontinued. And, even the ham pod is no longer available. All of these things that were incredibly useful aren't there now, and that's becoming a difficult issue. I'm trying to gather, anytime we get donations of these radios that used radios that I can make accessible, we are so grateful for them. Part of the problem is even finding the speech boards for these radios is becoming difficult. Every time I see one available, I buy it just because I know I'm going to need it at some point.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to encourage anybody who's with us today to ask a question of Lucinda. Also, I want to give it to Steve there. We have a question for you directly, Lucinda. We'll ask in a minute. Steve, do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, no, I really like the idea of, changing your in-person meetings to be hands-on, on-air experience. So one thing that the pandemic has really, really done well for us as a society was allowing this virtual, and it's now become the norm. Prior to it was like, oh, what's this Zoom? What's this WebEx or whatever? Well, now it's just incorporated into corporate America and the corporate world. So it's changed our whole dynamics these last 2 years, and bringing in people to learn and operate equipment is fantastic. This doesn't just stay with the HandiHams or your organization. This goes across the board with everybody, because we have these get your license in a weekend kind of class, and then at the end of the event, they take their test, they pass their license, and then they're just thrown to the wolves. And then these people don't have any. They have nowhere to turn. The clubs are doing this. We run into it all the time on the air. These people that just don't know what to do. That's like they get over the mic fright part, and then they're worried about, am I saying the right thing or the wrong thing, or this or that. So that is a great change or shift in what you're going to do in the in person, and I commend you for that. Plus, like you said, getting them in front of some equipment, because maybe HamPod might not work for this individual, but maybe another device will work. And when I started looking up HamPods, I was like really excited, like this is a cool box. And then the first thing I saw was it's discontinued. And as
Yep.
Dave was explaining to me, the gentleman that developed it was becoming visually impaired himself. And I guess it got to a point to where he just couldn't support it, and which is unfortunate. It's one guy that did it, but what a device.
Yeah.
And then we talked about the Kenwood VSG or their sound, their board, and how that's becoming harder and harder to find. And so it's a real challenge. But for me, what really kind of got to me was the lack of help that even from club members and relying on family members, because I started going, well, the family member puts up this antenna, it's going to work great for a while. Wait till the first wet season comes through. Now the amateur is going to have water in the coax because it wasn't sealed properly, if it was any tape even put on it, and it was, let alone if the antenna is even tuned properly. There, yeah, it just, I went a little nuts over it, and that's the frustration in my part was like, and this just kind of transcended not just with our handicapped members, but to even our senior members of the hobby here. This is a bigger issue. I mean, granted, yeah, it's the visually impaired is what kind of spurred it for me. But then I just started looking at the bigger picture, and it's like, as a group, we talk about helping each other, but we're not. And you pointed out the pandemic has changed us, and because for these last couple of years we've been in our bubble and here at home, and we had this perfect hobby that helped in maintaining a normal life for us amateur radio operators, but then on the other hand, we forgot to be human beings, and that just it's yeah. So.
Lucinda, do you guys like take help? Is there some place that we would contact you if there's people in different areas, or that? I mean, this may be a rare thing. You probably don't get a lot of people, like you said. Some people do say things and then you don't hear from them again. But people who may be listening in our audience, if they wanted to find out more, is it best to go through the website to get to you, or to say, hey, I live in Boston. If there's anybody here that needs any help, I live in Maryland. If anybody needs any help, that kind of thing, like almost a call list?
If they send an email to us at HandiHam at allina.com, and that's ALLINA.com, then we could add them to a list. We can't officially, just because of liability issues, we can't officially have HandiHam volunteers where we say, okay, here's a HandiHam program volunteer that's going to do your antenna work, because that would open up a whole can of worms. But if we have connections where we can say, hey, here's a list of people in your area, reach out to them, just like we give people a list of clubs in their area and hope that there's a friendly club that will help. If we can have that, we can refer things like that, to say, hey, reach out and see what you can work out.
Okay. There's a question from Pastor Joe, and we'll let you go here. I appreciate your time today. Pastor Joe says, can you comment on modern radios with touch screens and how that impacts blind operators?
Well, that's where we loved the HandiHam, because the HandiHam actually made touchscreen radios accessible. Without something like the HandiHam, and this is again where we need people using their brains to make things accessible. We also need companies to just make things accessible out of the box. Just like computers now, when you buy a new computer, it comes up talking. We need that with radios.
So manufacturers, and I believe you told me Kenwood's still the best for out-of-the-box help for people with disabilities. Is that still true?
Yes, except the radios are being discontinued.
That's the unfortunate part.
The big problem. And I think a lot of it is supply chain issues. And so we're very concerned right now because losing Kenwood is a huge problem.
So Kenwood, ICOM, Yaesu, any other makers and manufacturers who will stumble upon this through the ether and over time, you've got to get people with disabilities to the table when you are building your gear. It is essential. And able-bodied people, that still sounds strange to say. I don't know if it's right, Lucinda. You tell me if that's not right. But people without disabilities, we need to hold these people to it. I mean, they're fighting this fight all by themselves, with themselves. We got
and
go ahead.
Here's the deal. Everybody is literally one event away from being disabled.
Great point.
Your life can change in a heartbeat. And so you're not just helping somebody you don't know. You could be helping a family member. You could be helping yourself. You don't know. I mean, this is where universal accessibility is so important.
I think we'll leave it there. That's something for you guys to think about. That's a big one. That's a really big, important point. Lucinda, Alpha Bravo 8, Whiskey Foxtrot, will you come back on and tell us again? We're gonna think about this and digest it and find out what we can do as a community to help for real. And then maybe it takes some more conversations with us to figure out what it is specifically that would help for you. I don't want to go shooting in the dark, but I kind of have a couple of ideas, maybe. I think together we can figure this out, but manufacturers have got to get people with disabilities to the table, and we have to, as we're aging out and up, we have to think about that for our future too. So it's, anyway. Thank you, Lucinda. I appreciate you. I hope you go and have something wonderful and planned for today.
Well, thank you.
And tomorrow, happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, and I'm going to be at Dayton, so anybody that's wanting to talk to me in person, I'm going to be at Hamvention.
We need to get you like a 100 watts in a wire, some gear there, right? And Steve,
there we go.
Do you guys have gear? I'm going to get some gear. I want a sweatshirt. I want a HandiHam sweatshirt. We'll do a trade. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure something out.
Thank you, dear. Have a great weekend, okay?
Sounds good. You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Wow, how about that? That's pretty awesome there, y'all. Hey, look who made it in here. It's Scotty. Well, I hope that was good food for thought for the people. We have to think about this for all the reasons that we said. What can we do to help as a community? We need to start thinking about things like that. Want to remind you that LDG is a sponsor of this program, family owned and operated. They've got the Ballons, they've got the Onions, the analog meters, and of course the world famous tuners. Sometimes, girl, you bring that tuner in, bring the whip, let's tune up that. Oh, girl. Visit them online, ldgelectronics.com. Everywhere you look, literally, there's an LDG. Well, hello, Scotty. How are things going with you, sir? We didn't get to see your face, although you've been here working behind the scenes. We appreciate you coming in, and the people will look around and say, where is Scotty?
Yeah, I'm here. I've been here, doing okay. Rainy day here in Maryland. Flood watches and aerial flood warnings and all that fun stuff. Yeah, doing okay this morning. That was a great segment, by the way. Fantastic.
Well, thank you. I'm glad it was inspired by a conversation that happened on the air, and we have the flexibility here to, to talk to people that are living this. Can you imagine the job that she has? I mean, she has a job where, like, you don't even, if you had all the technology, you could make it easier, right? You got people with disabilities, they need X, Y, and Z to make things better. She's in a situation where she's running an organization where they don't even have the things that they need to do it, So, I don't want to harp on it, but there has to be a way that as a community, and I would encourage our community, the 100 Watts in a Wire community and the ham radio community at large, to think about these things and not just kind of dismiss it, because her point, the best point that she made was, we're all headed that way. You're just one step.
One step away from it, all of us.
What else do you need to hear?
Yeah.
I don't need to hear that. And people are already dealing with it. Not to bring up Scotty's business on a podcast in a public forum, but he's dealing with it. We're all dealing with our own stuff. So I just say, think about it. Think about it a little bit and help these people out. I'd love to hang antennas, but she has a point. My idea was like maybe we put together some sort of call list in each state, but the liability factor is there. Next thing you know, you're hanging something up in a tree. The branch comes. The next thing you know, you're breaking a thing or bust a window. So what sounds like a good idea may be a little more complicated, but we have some smart minds in the game, and it would be cool to hear ideas and pass things around. Anywho, thank you for indulging in that. Did we get it all, Steve? I hope that was helpful.
Oh yeah, very helpful. I think it would be a great club project to, help our disabled hams, or, even and it doesn't have to be a disabled ham. It could be our most seasoned amateur radio operators, ones that just don't have they don't have the strength. They just can't do it. And it would kind of fall in, if clubs did it, it would be a great learning experience to newer members. Is hey, we're going over to XYZ's station. We need to put his antenna back up, and let's go out with a group and we'll go do it and teach our newer members of the club how to properly put up an antenna, how to get it up and make sure it will stay up, at the same time helping a fellow amateur radio operator. So, I mean, it's a win-win. It's just getting things coordinated and becoming.
She has a hard,
that's the
job.
hard part. And getting there, because everybody's busy. Oh, I can't do that. But
everybody means well. That's the thing we talked about with clubs before, is that, 10% of the people are doing 100% of the work, or 80% of the work, or whatever it is. It's the same with life. The same excuses and engagement that happens across the board for every place. It's the same. Everybody's got a big heart, and but the solution, that's where the rubber hits the road, like Lucinda says. That's where are you? You said you wanted to do it, and then you spaced out and you didn't show up. I mean, that's heartbreaking for the person who needs the stuff. But I don't want to rant, because people are like, y'all just going to rant, and then you start getting the things, and then Sherry comes around. And you got to talk about Sherry. There's some contests going on this weekend, shall we, to mention those to the good people? Or remember, if you have a question at any point, even as you listen driving down the road, flying on the treadmill, you can drop it, put a Q in front of it here today as we're doing the live stream, or send it on email, christian@100wattsandawire.com. There's some contests. Scotty's got them lined up for you. What's happening?
Yeah, let's see. We got a few things going on this weekend. Well, the big one for this weekend is going to be the 7 call area QSO parties.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, 7 areas. That's a big section. Lots of state QSO parties. Washington, Oregon, Nevada, Arizona, even Alaska, for the elusive Alaska, for Utah, for your worked-all states. That's happening, kicking off this weekend today, actually. And then for those listening to the podcast later in the week, the next weekend, there's the first ever Canadian Prairies QSO party happening on May 14th. And there's a for the UVHF fans out there, the 50 megahertz and above sprint next weekend on May 14th as well. That's what I got for today's and next weekend's happenings as far as contests and Keystone parties go. It's a happening. What's a happening?
What's a happening? Hot stuff. Well, thank you very much for that. Look how the time flies. Ain't it funny how time slips away? That's a Willie Nelson classic right there. We're going to be doing some questions here. Again, you know what to do if you have a question. Drop it in. Other people have. We have a few to get to. But I want to talk about just for a little bit, it's hurricane season, June 1st through November 30th. We're preparing for that. You heard Scotty's got a little bit. They start talking about floods and storms. It freaks people out in Ellicott City where he is because of the floods. It's that time of year again, friends, and the Colorado State University has predicted 19 named storms, 9 hurricanes, and 4 majors. And they want to advise hams living in hurricane-prone areas should first take care of their families, right? Make sure you're well prepared for hurricane damage and extended power outages. Then, or maybe now, start taking advantage of some of the FEMA training classes. This is what they're encouraging. And the National Weather Service and local emergency communications groups in order to help effectively if you're needed. Let's see, amateurs in potentially affected areas should monitor the Hurricane Watch Net. You guys know about that? You guys know about that, of course. 14,325 on upper side band during the day and 7268 at night. The net is activated whenever a tropical system reaches hurricane status and is within 300 miles of a populated land area. So there you go. Take care of that sort of stuff. And just in the bizarre, maybe I could save this for a little while, but maybe we've got a few minutes. Did you guys see the story about the storm chasing tours? There's a tour group. You know, you could go around and see the home of Jesse James. You could go around and see the cave systems where he hid the money. Or you could go and learn about Scott Joplin. Or go around and find... They have storm chasing tours. I didn't know about this until this article came up on weather.com. Now, this is a group were on a storm-chasing trip, and they were on the side of the road watching. And guess what happened, Steve? Guess what happened as they were in the van watching the tornado? You know what happened.
Oh, it didn't end well.
The tornado hit the van. This was in, they were in Texas. They're driving around on a tour. You pay money.
Oh, my God.
And in this particular case, you know, they made it out okay. Unbelievably so. They made it out okay. No one died. You pay your money to go watch and chase the weather. This one pulls you over to the side of the road and lets you get hit by the tornado. How about that? I was like, oh,
they
Lord.
got their money's worth on that one.
They sure did. You want to? I bet you they won't come back.
Holy
I
smokes.
would think that's bad for business. But we'll put that article and the link in the show notes at 100wattsandthewire.com. Couldn't believe it. I don't know. I think it's interesting when they put them online and you see the storm chasers. They're live streaming. The streams always go down because they're in crappy areas, and it's just wipers. Rain, like, you know, enter sound. Yeah, we're chasing the storm. Oh, look over there. And you're like, cool, from my house, that's cool. But from the van on the side of the road, here it comes. Here it comes, guys.
Well, a number of years ago, there was that, was on Discovery or History Channel, was the storm chasers. And these guys, they highlighted, you know, a few teams that's all they did, where they went out and storm chased. And that, you know, spurred on more people to mimic them. And, you know, a lot of amateur radio operators are involved in storm chasing, whether they're doing it professionally or amateurs. But I kind of remember a number of years ago, a couple of hams that perished from storm chasing, and the twister made a turn, and they were in the path of it, and these were guys that were doing this professionally, and they just got into the wrong spot, and so yeah, looking at the videos that I've seen and just kind of paying attention to the background, it's just you have the chaos of the tornado, and now you're just adding more to it by the chaos of these people trying to get up and close and personal with it. And emergency services are they're just throwing their hands up like, we can't deal with this. This is idiots. These are idiots, basically, from their perspective.
Yeah, it is really not good. We gotta look who's popping up here. Look at this. What's going on, Pastor Joe? Can you hear me?
Trouble.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I hear you. Can you hear me?
Sure do.
Look at that. Look at that.
Sure do. So Pastor Joe has been. What are you doing? No. We can't do it. Sorry, we can't do it. Okay,
We've been good today.
sorry. I did not know. Why would you
behaving
come in with the
ourselves.
taunting? Does he not have any other clothes? It has to be a Boston Red Sox jersey, and then he's like, "I got something important to say." It's like the problem is that once 100 Watts and Wire signed that deep 6-figure deal, we had to start an HR department. And then they thought it'd be a good idea to have Pastor Joe be the arbiter of things that would potentially get out of hand. And, quite frankly, I've had it up to here with Pastor Joe, but here he comes. And I'm
Wawa. Don't you have like a Wawa shirt or something?
I mean, that's what I'm really.
Just throw some love. I mean,
that's what I'm really here for. Let's see, Pastor Joe. Hi, Pastor Joe.
Hello.
Can you?
Yes, can you hear me now?
We definitely can hear you.
we
and
always hear
boy,
you.
Okay.
You're always in my head.
We always hear you.
especially
Yes,
Monday
and
morning,
you should
10
be
o'clock.
ashamed of yourself, Steve.
Oh, yeah, every day.
I'm going to take away that disconnect button from you, Christian.
You cannot do that. You cannot do that.
Anyway, hey, that was a fantastic segment with that woman. I have a very close friend who's blind, and so that one really hit home. So that was an excellent segment. Thank you for that.
Thank you for saying that. Yep, it's interesting. We don't know. I think there's a lot of the distance between what we do on the radio. That's something that you may not bring up. It's interesting that it came up during the conversation, but people aren't generally like, hey, I'm disabled. Maybe some people do that, but you don't lead with that. We lead with other crutches like the weather and what's your rig and what kind of antenna and what kind of power and amplifier, but we don't dig in, and it's a personal thing to either offer that, and it's kind of, shall I say, douchey to bring it up. You know what I mean? Could you, hey, so yeah, I got through all the antenna stuff, and do you have a disability? These things just don't happen, and I bet you that it's happening more than we know. More people that we make contact with, more people on the net we make contact with, probably are dealing with some sort of stuff. And I don't have the answer and the solution, but I think Lucinda is in such a difficult position just because she can't even throw the equipment at it. It's not being produced or not being produced enough. What other thoughts did you have on that, Pastor Joe?
Well, like Steve, I went to the Handy Pod, that device, the website, and of course, the very first thing it says is, "I've gone so blind, I can't make these anymore." And that killed me. That just grieved me to hear that a blind guy has to be the only person making these devices. I don't know that it's a high profit margin thing because it's all about the money when you're in business, but I just got to believe that there's some company somewhere that could pick up production of this and offer it at a reasonable price. It just really tore at me to read that. It's just a shame. But what I've seen, what I've discovered is that those who have disabilities, be they blind or maybe they're sick or housebound, whatever, those are the people I find locally that are reaching out the most. There's a guy who lives up north of me, who's got some issues, and he's on the repeaters all the time. There's another guy who's got some pretty major health issues, and he was bedbound for a while. And for them, this may be their only source of social contact. And that's, I think, a human element of amateur radio that we overlook. We talk about, our antennas and our gear and POTA, this, that, and the other thing, which is great. But for many people, this may be their only social contact during the day. So there is a very human element to this hobby.
Thank you for sharing that. I hope you have a great day. We're going to go and ask and answer some questions, but it's good to see your face. And I love that you keep the Boston of the Boston Red Sox shirt low in the frame. It's if you could just crouch down a little bit more, it would be perfect framing.
So I did. Let me just say, and then I'll let you go. I did not wear this for you, Christian, because you guys took 2 out of 3, as you well know.
Oh,
and right now the Red Sox are sort of not doing well at all, much to my wife's chagrin. But we are celebrating Mother's Day today. It's going to be windy but not rainy at game time in Boston, and so we've got family coming today. And so to honor my wife, that's why I'm wearing the shirt. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I appreciate it. I like her very much. You, not as much. But
65%.
Who's the Red Sox playing today?
I don't know.
That is a darn fine question. I don't even know, but Karen could tell you.
It's so early. It's so early in the year that the Orioles can upset a lot of great teams early, and it takes the really good teams a little bit of time to get their stride. And so the younger teams that aren't as good come out and they win a string, and then you get to June, mid-June, and enter, and you know what you have. And then the strong teams are already hitting their peak and they're starting to crush. So she's fine. She's fine. The Yankees, the Red Sox, there's a lot of great teams. The Dodgers, who I can't stand anymore. I think less than Boston is the Dodgers. I just don't like teams that assemble all the great talent. They take it from smaller markets like Milwaukee, or they take it from Baltimore, and next thing you know, they're juggernauts and they're really hard. They got that money. But anyway, that's a different rant. We'll do that another time. Best to your wife and your children. Say Happy Mother's Day. Likewise. And we will see you Monday at 10. And we've managed to keep it clean. I think this is actually some good deeds today. So maybe less Hail Marys this time.
Very good. Thanks, guys. Love being with you. Thank you.
Take
Christian.
care of yourself.
God bless.
Hey, Joe.
All right.
Thank you, Joe.
All right. Let's take a look at before we get into our questions, let's take a look at some of the events that are happening this weekend. We call those the special events in HamFest, and we will say, if you're looking for a power solution, check out BioNO Power, offering the best lithium phosphate batteries for your ham radios. Visit bionopower.com. That's BIOENNO power.com. Scotty's back again to tell us about special events in HamFest.
Yeah. There's always so many to choose from. So it's just a matter of picking a few that are happening. So we have Armed Forces Day cross band test, not happening this weekend, but on the 14th. It's open to all licensed amateur radio operators and will not impact any public or private communications. And more information at dodmars.org. Department of Defense. Helping sponsor that one. We got a couple ham fests. So let's see what we got. The ARRL Nebraska State Convention happening. LincolnHamFest.org for more information on that. Also, the General Motors Amateur Radio Club. They have like a monthly trunk swap in Shelby Township, Michigan.
That sounds fun.
Nice.
Yeah, hang out with a bunch of GM, General Motors ham radio guys. That actually sounds like it's like a fun weekend. You can see what they have happen if you're in that area. GMARC.org. So yeah, just a few of the things that are happening around this weekend and next weekend.
Okay.
So plan for your ham radio activities.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. If you have a question, put a Q in front of it, drop it in you know where, and we will take care of that. It is actually time for Steve and I to take your questions, some that have come in over the week, some that we try to get to in real time as we go. First question, Steve, are you ready?
Let's go.
All right. First question is answered. Second question. This might be actually for Scotty. How is a net hosted on FT8? Doug wanted to know. He put this on our Facebook group, and we got to bring Scotty in. Maybe Scotty should answer this one.
Bring Scotty in. I'm out.
Yeah,
we don't know.
I saw that on Facebook, and I got a chuckle. You can't really host a net on FT8. It's just kind of more of an additional contact with the net group during the net proper. It's kind of more of a side bonus point, I guess, if you will. But yeah, you can't really host it.
How do you do it? I mean, how can you do it with
tell us how it
based
works
on the limitations of the mode? And so how can one do so? Because that would be a great deal if it could be done. I mean, on sideband CW, voice modes, it's real easy to do, but How
I just kind of
could it be
I just kind of
accomplished on
treat it.
FT8?
Yeah, I just kind of treat it like a Parks on the Air activation. You know, hey, here I am. I'm activating 100 watts in a wire net, and just get your contact, and I log them, and that's all it is. Just an additional point. This little side contact during the net once he worked Steve and Don and Paul on the air. Then maybe I'll try to get Scotty too over on FT8.
Yeah.
Little
So
side
it's
hustle there.
another offering, a little
Exactly.
accoutrement. He is
Accoutrement.
he's accoutrement. All right. Well, thank you.
I'm like ketchup.
He's like ketchup. What? I can't even say that. Okay. Can't say anything about anybody being anything.
No,
Okay.
nothing about condiments. Oh,
Nothing about condiments. We were going so well. Pastor Joe comes in, and the next thing you know, we got
it all
this
goes to
problem.
heck in a handbasket.
We got another question from our folks in our community. Of course, you know what to do if you're here and visiting with us during the live recording. If not, drop me a line, just like Tim did. Does weather affect your antenna performance? Rain, fog, etc.?
Yeah, it can. It can change the VSWR. There's people that talked about when it rains, their VSWR changes on their beam. I haven't seen it so much on wire antennas. As long as the water doesn't get into the connections or your coax, that definitely will change the performance of it. But I've noticed, especially on higher frequencies, that water coating, say, the elements on your directional antenna, will change the resonant point of the antenna. It will. Some guys will say, "Hey, it's raining. My VSWR is going to go out of whack here," and they'll go QRT. So, yeah, rain. It's more rain. I don't know about fog. It could have some issues. I haven't experienced that with fog. I've seen some effects with rain, but I would imagine fog would also have could impact your antenna. It's I just see it more from what as just a change in the VSWR. It could change, skew the pattern a little bit, but I'd just say more the VSWR would be your biggest impact.
Okay, I hope that helps you. Thanks for your question. If you have one, drop it in, put a Q in front of it so we can pull it out and answer it. Let's take a look at another question. RG6 coax cable, is it friend or foe? This is from chat. RG6 coax cable, friend or foe?
So what RG6 cable is, for those that don't know, is that's your standard 75 ohm cable TV. It's just stuff that it comes into your house. Actually, it could be your friend. If that's all you have and you're throwing up a dipole antenna, perfect. It will work. I wouldn't be running a lot of power through it. We don't have a lot of connectors that are specifically designed for RG6. You could probably do some adaptation to adapt the standard PL259 that our equipment is used to, but it's believe it or not, if you look at and we're going to get right into the super weeds and the technical part, the impedance of a dipole antenna at resonance is 72 ohms at the feed point. So our equipment is set for 50 ohms, and then and typically that's what most of our antennas are we achieve that or are achieved at 50 ohms. But a dipole, honest to goodness true dipole, is 72 ohms, and RG6 is a 75 ohm cable. So you have the best match to go from the cable to the antenna. If you're using 50 ohm cable, typically you have a 1.5 to 1 VSWR mismatch at the antenna feed point using standard 50 ohm cable. We kind of tune it out and do some trimming to make it look like 50 ohms at the radio when we're all said and done. But no, if you're in a pinch and that's all you have, go by all means use RG6. I just wouldn't use it at high power, but for standard 100 watts, go for it. Good luck. Have fun.
All right. Very good. We have a question. Is it legal to use GMRS radios for our village to use for security patrols? We need about, what is that, 2 to 3 mile coverage. Can the village get GMRS licenses to cover us? That's Kilo Golf 5, Lima Tango, Lima. Any idea?
I would think it would be okay. I'd have to look at the regulations on GMRS. It's kind of like Class ACV. It is Class ACV essentially, and so I would imagine it is. Now, if you're trying to do it with FRS radios, then no, because FRS is Family Radio Service, and it's strictly nonprofit, or it's supposed to be for family type activities. You can't use it in a business. A lot of companies, Flaggers is one of the bigger ones that use GMRS. Technically, they're not supposed to because they're using it in a commercial environment, as the FCC would view it. But they don't do anything about it. There's little to no enforcement. But I would think that GMRS you could use in this situation, but I'm not 100% sure. I have to look at the regs.
Got something on that, Scotty? Or
Yeah, we have a radio community thing that we've set up that I set up with the folks here that live on Main Street because of the flooding, and we actually do use FRS, but again, not in a business sense at all. It's we treat it as bubble pack walkie-talkie radios, and we're just checking on each other during foul weather. Now, when the
FRS,
when it's raining hard, I may push a few more watts than I'm supposed to, just to make sure I get out to the outer edges of our little town here, but which is only quarter mile. And I got a little folded dipole up on the roof to make sure I can get a hold of everybody. And we have Channel 3 as our go-to radio channel.
So you're the neighborhood net control.
Yeah. When the weather's bad and the creek's rising and the water's starting to spill onto the street, there's probably about 12 of us in town at various spots up and down Main Street, and we check in and relay for each other and make sure everybody's okay, and we use FRS for that.
All right, very good. Perfect. Got to go into the emissions and corrections portion. I noticed I was in a fog a little bit, and there's a couple things that I need to clear up and make sure you understand. But this portion of the show is brought to you by Uncle Paul's Pickled Nuts. Uncle Paul's Nuts, pickled and barreled in Tom's River and sold exclusively in Freehold at PastorJoe'sHouse.com. Uncle Paul's Nuts, enjoy them by the handful. I got to tell you, last week I mentioned that I went to broadcasting school. I did not go to broadcasting school proper. They have these places where you can go and learn. They're like, come to this. And I think every city's got one. I did not.
Columbia School of Broadcasting.
Right.
God,
and
I remember that.
They promise you, you come to the school, pay $5,000, and the next thing you know, you're going to get a gig in radio or whatever. And I never really believed that, but I did not go to broadcasting school. Somehow in my fog, I mentioned that. Also, I mentioned that I sent Steve a certain kind of photograph. That also did not happen. I don't know what the kids call it, but it was a shot of something on my body, say an extremity. And for some reason, I sent him a picture of that, and that just was not true. That did not happen. Are there any other things that we lied about or we need to change? I think it usually comes from me. It would have come directly out of the fog. I do want to announce that the tune-up's coming up. We're about a month away from the tune-up. Yes. June 10th, 11th, and 12th. We're going to do things a little different this year. We're going to put a team of people together for you to chase. In past years, we've always done prizes and all. It's a lot of administrative type work. This time around, I just want to encourage you to get on the air, chase the station. There's going to be a 100 Watts in a Wire team on the air. We can chase it. You're encouraged to Set up your portable systems. If you've got a portable station, get out and do it. We had so much fun. Steve and I streamed last year, and he was between his towers, and I was out in the old wooden shed. It was so much fun, making contacts, chasing, going up around the band. And when you're running on lower power, 100 watts or whatever, trying to work other stations that decided to get on, and called the 100 watts and a wire tune-up, and it gets you ready for field day. Really was the purpose of this, is sort of, why don't you get out there ahead of field day? You know, because if you're part of a club, you don't always get assigned to what particular thing that you may want to do should you be running on your own on field day. Maybe you built this great antenna and you want to test it. However, you're part of a club and you're running from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock on 20 meters, and that's what you're going to do, or you're going to get a potato gun and hang an antenna somebody else's. You know what I'm saying? So you get up there, do what you need to do at the tune-up, exercise your mind, your body, and your gear, any band, any mode, anytime that weekend. Just get on there and call CQ. Simple exchange, your call sign, your 100-watt ID if you have one of those, where you are, a true signal report. Easy as can be, and our CW operators can also participate, and they use CQFO or TU depending on what they're doing. But the tune-up is coming, guys, and we want to make sure that you are aware of that, and put that on your calendar, because it's always a good time. You'll have plenty of stations to chase.
Yeah, and also for our technician class members, get on 14652 on 2 meters and call during the tune-up and just work folks. So it's not just limited to HF, just all bands, any mode, anytime, anywhere.
No rules, really. Get out there. If you got a station, or just do it from the comfort of your own house. You can just get in and say, hey, 100 watts and a wire tune-up. I'm taking calls, checking in. It's a community-based event, and it's a really good time. It's really a good excuse to get on the air, as if you need another one of those. What else? The Sunday evening net has been downgraded to a gathering of the willing. This is what we do if we don't have a net on these high holidays like Mother's Day. People are doing things. We take time to honor our mothers and the mothers in our lives that we have. So we've downgraded the net. And what does that mean? That means that anybody in the community, our 100 watts and a wire community, can host a gathering of the willing. That's what it's called. You get on the air and you're just like, we're doing a gathering. Waka waka, get on the air, take some calls, post it up on our socials, and that's that. Steve and I are loosely talking about maybe getting on the air, seeing how the day unfolds, maybe streaming, who knows. But we won't have a formal net tomorrow or Sunday night because of Mother's Day. So that's what's up with that. Any notes on that, Steve?
Nope, we're good.
All right.
That's exactly. So we'll see how it goes and just play it by feel, and you never know. So if you start getting on the air and just chit-chatting, you never know who might show up.
Yep. And we'll post that on our socials. Make sure you find your people. And we have a social media. We're on Facebook and we are on Discord. So you're welcome to join us there. The groups are engaged. They talk about things, their camaraderie, making friends. There's fellowship there between the shows, between the nets, all that sort of stuff. So make sure you check in there. And if any of us are on the air tomorrow, we'll let you know for a gathering of the willing. How did we do? I think we did all right. We made it, didn't we? We did it. I got a birthday girl in the house today. I don't think I'm going to do an overtime today. I'm going to go be with my oldest child, who is 12 years old. I can't even believe that. I have jackets and clothes older than that. It makes you think about, wow. Wow. But anyway, yeah, the time goes fast. So we're going to be spending some time there. What did we miss? Did we miss anything? Did we miss any questions or any comments that we needed to do for our people? All right, cool.
I think we got it.
Grabbed all the cues today. It was I don't think I missed anybody.
All right. Oh, so this is the time, baby. Don't move. I'll go get you a towel. That is an old radio joke from 98 Rock in Baltimore. That was a morning show bit. I think they even released a CD of that. A CD? You guys don't know what a CD is?
One of them compact discs.
Yeah, one of those discs.
You mean
Now
we've
we've got
got
them
on a cassette tape?
Yeah, got cassettes
And
and a cart machine.
Really want to go old 8-track.
8 tracks, baby. In the car with you, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Well, take care of yourselves and stay out of trouble. And by all means, if you can, please try and stay above the noise. 73 Steve, 73 Scotty, 73 to
everyone.
everybody. We appreciate you, and we'll catch you again next week.
To join the 100 Watts in a Wire community, visit 100wattsinawire.com.